Hello, this is Dan Washburn, and this is my presentation on case study 2, which was the breakup. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of the case, talk to you about the theories and supporting ideas from the chapter, and then my conclusion. So, quick synopsis is the case is about two ambitious business professionals, Ava and Nellie, who decided to get together and form a new business partnership where they were going to work hard and play hard and also have no work-life boundaries, have a really intense relationship. This goes well for a while, but Nellie starts to disengage, and a little resentment creeps in as Ava doesn't really understand it or doesn't confront it. Just she really wants things to proceed as normal, that you keep that intense lifestyle. Nellie finally opened up after a long time, almost 2 years, where she said she just couldn't handle the pressure, she wanted out, and the climate cooled pretty quickly as Nellie was transitioning out and having formal negotiations. It really turned petty. So we're not sure if either of them understood each other at that point. So my thesis is that both were actually to blame in the situation for the breakdown in their organizational communications. They both shied away from really taking responsibility for defining their partnership, their organization, through their communications. And they failed to make it a positive environment. So my theories from chapter 3, which is about classical theories. Ava, who was one of the partners, had a human relations perspective. Nellie probably had a human resources perspective. The two are at odds. Human resources is where you engage with the team members, recognize their needs, draw out their strength, and bring them in for important decisions. And so Miles talks about human relations on page 120, which was Ava's view, which was placating the employees or the team members enough just to make them happy and productive. And she just wished Nellie would work hard and go along with things and keep the structure that Ava wanted. In chapter 4, modern theories, Nellie was more of the interpretive perspective versus Ava's post-positive. So interpretive covered on page 152, where the organization is made up of the talents and discourse of its members, and changes as members exit and enter the organization. Exits, so if someone leaves the organization, they also take their value, their character with them, and the organization changes. And Nellie wanted compensation in the end for this perspective. Ava, on the other hand, was post-positive, table 4.1, where the organization is bigger, it exists beyond the members. As they enter and exit, it does not define what the organization is about. And if a member exits, their value stays with the organization, so it's not warranted to compensate for it. So some of the ideas from the chapters. Chapter 5 was about, I saw it as poor internal stakeholder communications. Page 202 talks about internal communications, which for this team, it was not formal from the outset. They had no discipline in their business about how they were going to resolve problems, how they were going to communicate. And the idea was just do the job, have fun, and have no more than shallow interpersonal communications. And if problems arose, you couldn't really talk about it. This built understanding and misunderstanding. Nellie just went along with it, and so this is referred to as acquiescent silence on page 217. Then it turned into organizational dissent on page 219, but it was too late at that point. So chapter 6, I saw it as creating a bad climate. Krebs talks about this on page 154, defines the climate as an internal emotional tone based on how comfortable the members feel with each other. And I'd say talking about problems. So the fun and rewarding but shallow lifestyle was what Ava and Nellie created together, where they just didn't talk about problems. And when things turned up, especially when Ava brought it up that there was a problem, it turned hostile, petty, and that created a really cold environment. So Redding on page 156 mentions the SCOPE elements of an ideal managerial climate. These are things like supportiveness, credibility, openness, participatory decision-making, and high-performance goals, and all of these had broken down. All of these were just not in place. Chapter 7, my idea was that there was poor leadership and followership. Greenleaf's servant leadership on page 206 talks about how the servant leader serves the organization and its members just to make things better. They're focused on serving the team members instead of looking out for their own needs. And Ava basically served herself and not even Nellie or the organization. She just wanted things to go her way. And her true nature was revealed when Nellie opened up and Ava became antagonistic about it. Spear on page 206 talks about the 10 characteristics of a servant leader, such as listening, empathy, and healing, and none of these were in place. It was absent of that sort of environment. The same criticism, though, for Nellie, who acted selfishly in withdrawing and not really working the problem out, not bringing it up. Chapter 10 goes on to the disengaging and post-exit reflection steps. Nellie underwent the voluntary disengagement and turnover steps from page 305. She was disillusioned with the work-life imbalance from pretty early on, and so she started to withdraw, and that got worse over time. So she was in the stages of pre-announcement disengagement. She was less involved, absent, her responsibilities were slipping. And finally, well into this, up to 2 years, came the official actual announcement, and Nellie had already made up her mind. Even though she was kind of reaching out for help, it was too late. She agreed to stay on for another 6 months to transition out, but it was awkward, and it turned into a negotiation phase for compensation, which was also formal, cold, petty, so not pretty. And with the actual exit and post-exit, it could be that Nellie did go on to be happy, that she was happy to stand up for herself, and Ava was left in self-reflection, like, what did I do wrong? What am I going to do next? So in conclusion, at first I thought Nellie may have been the victim or a casualty here, but I can see that it was a breakdown in org comm by both of them. Nellie was self-disillusioned early on, but she didn't talk about it as an equal partner. She didn't even try to bring up the problems, and she withdrew. Hopefully each of them will reflect on the situation and realize the impact they made each other in their organizational communications. Thank you.